You weren't here yesterday either, so listen carefully. And neither were you. Victor, get off the phone. As I was saying yesterday, the maths for business course this year is a little bit different to the maths for business course last year. So that actually means that I don't have your workbook finished, but I have the first 25 pages finished. So this will keep us busy for a few weeks. So here's the first quarter of the semester here, okay? When we get to the end of this, I'll give you the next quarter. Okay. Actually, maybe you can just take it past one around. Oh, right. The people who missed the lesson yesterday morning, you must go to YouTube on my channel and you must search my channel for the lesson yesterday. Just type in statistics, it'll be the most recent video uploaded. It was uploaded yesterday. Okay? Let me show you. This is important because there was lots of vocabulary we did yesterday. You remember all the vocabulary? We had lots of vocabulary yesterday. So it's important for the rest of this chapter that you, there's spare, is it? Yeah. It's important for the rest of this chapter that you watch this video. Okay? So I think 5 or 6 people missed class yesterday. So I expect to see at least 5 or 6 YouTube views of the video later today. Okay? Let me just show you here. So if I go... I use it my channel address. Yeah. Hey. Now, when you search on YouTube, this is a mistake one of my physics students was making yesterday. Okay, so don't you make this mistake. Don't search here. This is the search all of YouTube. You don't want to do this. You want to click the search here. This is the search my channel. So if you type in statistics,
Yes.
2 years ago. There was a now can you do sort by most recent, is it?
No, you don't have to reset. Let's go to the video. We will see the rest of the video.
21 hours ago, that's the one.
No views.
No views. Yeah. So I don't want to see no views later today, okay? I want to see 5 or 6. So, yeah, that's it there. Maths, actually the full, Maths for Business Statistics might give you more relevant results. So if you type in Maths for Business Statistics, maybe that, please. What? Good. Congratulations. You know how to use YouTube. There it is, the first one. You can see that there, okay. Now, actually, it was Malik who gave me the idea of playlists, so I was practicing. So I've made my very first playlist. So my very first playlist was for the end of semester 1 exam that we did in class. Yeah, you can watch all the answers here. For, the exemplar exam I gave you. Yeah? Now what I'll try to do when we get to the end of the chapter is make a playlist for all the lessons in this chapter we're doing at the moment. That way if you want to watch them you can open up the playlist. Yeah? Okay, I don't think there's any other things to say about this. One view, that's me. Yeah. Alright, so we'll continue now with the statistics. Okay. Now, again, like I said yesterday, the vocabulary that we learned yesterday is very useful for business as well, because the words I'm doing in statistics, you will also do with Mark in business. So the words we had yesterday was like quantitative and qualitative. These are words that Mark also uses in business class. And again today, in this lesson, these are also words that Mark will use in business class. No texting BS in class, okay? I just need to make that rule clear. Okay. Sampling techniques. Because he has 2 hours free now, so he's going to be bored. Okay. Right, so he write this down. So we're looking at something called sampling techniques. Yep. Oh no, not me. Oh yeah, I'll fix that. Oh, where did I put my key? Thanks. I'm glad someone saw it. Right. There we go. Does anybody know, firstly, what I mean by sampling?
How to collect?
Yeah, how to collect. So yesterday we were talking about data, you know, like asking people what's their favorite TV show, or what's their favorite food, or what's their favorite movie. So sampling, as you said it, Malik, I'll make the font a bit bigger actually. Or maybe I'll, yeah. Can you see okay? Yeah. Sampling, sampling technique. The method of collecting data. So in other words, is how you collect your data. That's sampling technique. So please write these definitions down. So sampling technique is the method of collecting data. In other words, it is how you collect your data. Yeah? Okay. Have you done anything like this with Mark yet? Customer surveys or anything like that? With Mark? No, not yet. He will do this with you though. What are you doing what was the last thing you did in business?
Marketing.
Okay, so he's doing marketing, is it? Yeah. So part of marketing is market research. So this will be a part of what you will do in business. So it's useful vocabulary. Okay, so we have a few ways to collect data, ways to sample. So let me put them as, where's bullet points? Numbering. Okay, so the first method is called simple random sampling, or random sampling for short. I do not like this name for short. So please say simple random sampling. Now some people I think know this word already, random. You know, some people know random. How would you explain random? What is random? It's hard to explain, isn't it? What is random? Yeah, like picking something without any reason, yeah. Anything else? Like blind picking, you know, picking blindly. Just picking anything. This is random. So what do you think simple random sampling is? What method do you think this is? You know, like how do you think this method works if I say random sampling?
You choose a number of the population, total population.
Yeah.
Randomly out, like,
yeah.
Criteria.
That's, yeah, without any criteria. So simple random is you pick anyone from the population, okay, and there's no criteria when you pick. You literally pick anyone. But most importantly is that everyone has the same chance of being picked. So simple random is a selection from the population done at random, and each member of the population has the same chance of being selected. And that's the most important part. Has the same chance of being selected. Well, I put the whole thing. Each member of the population has the same chance of being selected. Actually, I should have checked if you knew these words. You know the word population. It's the whole body of people. And sample is just a small part of the whole body of people. Yeah? Focus. Yep. Okay. Have you got this? Can I continue? Yeah? Okay. Next one. That's one of them. Now, I'm not going to do, there's so many techniques, I'm not going to do them all. So I won't do that one, because that's convenient, isn't it? Yeah, I'll do Quota. I'll do this one. But there's so many techniques. I'm doing the ones which are going to be in your business class as well. Yeah. Systematic sampling. Yes, in the business exam, sometimes in a question they'll ask you to explain something. Now, it's not many questions. It'll only be maybe 3 or 4 marks, but it is possible in the final exam that they could say something like explain blank, whatever blank is. And usually the question where this appears is the statistics question, because there's vocabulary and definitions in it. Yeah. Okay, we explained systematic. So this is when the population is ordered some way, and then members are selected at fixed intervals from the order. I'll explain this with an example. You got this written down? You're writing, aren't you, John Wayne? You got both of these? Yes? Okay, so let's explain this one with an example. So, it's your job to get some data from a street. But the street is very long. Maybe there are 100 houses on the street. So if you were doing a simple random sample of these 100 houses, what you would do is you'd pick a number from 1 to 100 and go to that house. And then pick another number from 1 to 100 and go to the next house. But systematic sampling is you have a process. For example, you go to every 5th house. So you go to the first house, then house number 1, house number 6, house number 11, house number 16, something like this. You'd go every 5 houses maybe. This is an example of systematic. Another example would be in a factory when you have the food going by, and maybe every 100 products you take it off the machine, the conveyor belt, and you check that the product is safe, that nothing fell into the product. And then if something did fall in, then you would stop the machine and examine then what went wrong. So systematic is you have an order to the population, and it doesn't matter what the order is, but you put the population in order, and then you pick at fixed distances in the order. Okay, so most common example is when you're doing a survey of a street, a long street, you might go to every second house, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah? So this is systematic. You can't always do systematic because you need to have an order to the data. Do you remember what type of data has an order from yesterday's class? Qualitative, for example, qualitative ordinal. Also, quantitative continuous and quantitative discrete has an order. What data does not have an order is nominal. But you could make up an order if you wanted to, even if the order didn't make sense, like alphabetical order. Anyways, that's systematic sampling. Can I do the next one? Yep. Okay, so next is stratified random sampling. Right, does anybody know this word? Stratified. Does anyone know this word? Stratified? No? Doesn't sound like anything in Portuguese? Maybe? What do you think? You had something, go on, you're close.
I know how to explain.
Yeah, any ideas? No, okay, alright. With stratified you have this concept of kind of layers. Yeah, so with stratified random sampling, what you do is he knows? You know? No? Okay, alright. The population is put into distinct subgroups. Distinct means different, basically, subgroups. And then the subgroups are sampled randomly. So in this stratified one, what you do is, well, I'll give you a minute to write it down, and I'll explain it. You write this down? Yeah.
So an example of that would be...
I'll give one now in a sec. Everyone has this? So stratified. One example, again, would be like a town. So you're wanting... Yeah, question? No. You're wanting to do some research about people who live in Dublin. So rather than picking people randomly throughout Dublin, what you do is you break Dublin up into smaller subgroups. So for Dublin, what would be the most natural way to break Dublin up into smaller subgroups? By the postal code, by the district. So you would have like Dublin 6, Dublin 8, Dublin 22, whatever. And then you pick randomly from each subgroup. So basically stratified is where you have a big population and you split it into smaller subgroups. And then you pick from each subgroup. So it makes the job more manageable. Okay. So again, you would see something like this usually with countries, So like with Ireland, if you wanted to research something about Ireland, you would break it up by county maybe. But then Dublin maybe should be broken up further because it's so big. So you could have like Cork and Galway and Limerick, and then in Dublin you could do like Dublin North and Dublin South. So this stratified, this word in English, I think you know it in Portuguese, but what, do we know any synonyms for stratified? Stratas in English are, well, I'll tell you, stratas are basically like subgroups, subsections. You know, so the other part of English that you would see this word is when you're talking about earth science, you know, so like, I'll give you just an example for your English. So here you have the grass, and here you have the center of the earth, which is the core. But if you were to look at the earth from the side, it would be layers of different colours. It wouldn't all be the same colour. And the reason, does anyone know? Anyone remember from middle school science? No? The different colours are to do with the different periods of Earth's history, you know, different weather conditions. So maybe, for example, this layer is darker because 3,000 years ago it was, for a few hundred years, it was poorer weather conditions or something like this. Or different materials in the atmosphere or whatever. So you have these different layers over time. These are called stratas, different layers. Okay. So the only time you would see this word is in statistics or in earth science. And I don't think anyone is doing earth science. No. So you'll see it in statistics. Okay. Can we do the next one?
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Can we divide like the population into like male or female or?
Yep, we'll get to that one later.
I mean in this one.
Oh! You could, but we have a different word when you do it by gender. It's the same idea, but usually when we talk about the word stratified, we usually mean by location. It's the same idea by gender. Yeah, but we usually use it for location.
Not only gender, maybe the
income or something,
age
age, yeah. There's a different word for that one. Yeah. Stratified is usually done by location. Usually. Yeah. Okay, the next one. Quota sampling. So this is good, Malik, because this is what you're asking me about. Yeah. Quota sampling. It is the same as number 3, which is the stratified. So Malik, usually when you're doing it by gender, it is stratified. You're putting like male subgroup and female subgroup. But usually the reason you're doing it by gender is because you want so many men and so many women. So we usually call that one quota. The only difference with quota compared to stratified, it's the same as 3, but you have a target number from each subgroup.
Also, you do have access to the population.
With quota?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Say again?
Like the first one, when you are running sampling, you must have access to the total number.
Yeah, you must. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, with quota, maybe you don't have access. Yeah. And the other thing that's important about quota is it is not random normally. So what I mean by that is if we're doing one with the gender and you split the group into male and female, then you pick 5 men and 5 women because you want this for your research. So it's not done randomly. You just say, okay, I want 5 men, so I'll just take the first 5 from the list of names or whatever. So quota is you have a target you want to reach. So you don't do it randomly, because if you did it randomly, then you might not get your target. Yeah?
Actually, it's like easy to carry on, but it doesn't actually present the population.
Yeah, each of these have disadvantages. And you can probably guess what the problem is with quota, because it's not random. Is this what you mean?
Yeah.
And we'll get to disadvantages in a minute, but each of these have advantages and disadvantages. Okay, do you understand quota? So when might you see quota? Well, that would be usually market research. You know, you want so many men or so many people of a certain age in your research. So this would be when you would use quota. Okay, can I do the next one? Yeah. Next one. We wonder if anyone heard this one. Snowballing.
How many will have to do this?
2 more after this. There's 7 in total. But for the people who are going to study anything to do with business next year, if you do any kind of class on marketing, these words you will see again, for sure. So anybody doing anything business, economics, what's your one? I forget. I know you might see something like this, because, you know, as part of this you might have some lesson, some semester on some kind of quantitative research, you know. Because as part of politics, you know, surveying and questionnaires are a part of politics. So no, I actually would say there's a good chance you'll see these words again. Yeah.
For the social sciences.
Social sciences, you'll see these. Yeah, social science. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone know snowballing? So of course you know snowball as a noun. Yeah. So snowballing as a concept. This survey, what I would do is I would have a survey. I have like maybe 10 surveys, and I'd give the 10 surveys to him. He would do one survey, and then I'd tell him to give the other 9 to other people, someone he knows. So maybe he gives 4 to him and, you know, 5 to her, and they each would fill out a survey, and then the extra surveys they would give to other people. So this is, in English, this is like snowball, and it means kind of spreading out, like a snowball that gets bigger. So why do you think, or when do you think you would have something like snowballing? Oh, and of course with snowballing, you must also give people a stamp or some way to send the survey back to you when they write it out. Why might you do snowballing, or when would you do snowballing?
When you don't have access to the...
When you have a restriction to access, yeah. So give me an example.
A war.
Huh?
A war.
A war? Yeah, like something like this, yeah. Think of something maybe that we could do in Ireland, maybe. Something where you, closer to home. A war would be one example, so you might only have access to a small group of people.
Another school or university.
Like
Not
isolated society?
Yeah, so give me an example.
Irish travelers?
Travelers maybe, yes, correct, yeah. I'm thinking, you know, the example is always something like, maybe like drug addicts, for example. So, I mean, you wouldn't have access to this population, this group of people, but if you have access to 1 or 2 people, then they could pass the survey on. So the advantage here with the example of maybe like travellers, an isolated group, drug addicts, they would have more access to other people in their group than you would as a researcher. So you maybe might know 1 traveller, maybe. It's a small subgroup. Or maybe you might know 1 drug addict, maybe. This would give you an ability to research the group, because you can give them the questionnaires. But of course this would have problems, disadvantages. What would be one disadvantage?
Bias, maybe they don't like the person.
Bias, yeah.
the person is not.
What would be the biggest problem? What would be the worst thing that could happen? Yeah, that the first person you give it to puts them all in the bin. And then your research is over. Yeah? This is the biggest risk that you have with this technique. So the biggest advantage is that it gives you access to an isolated group of people, but the biggest disadvantage is that you maybe get everything or maybe you get nothing. Yeah?
Last year I did a survey.
Yeah?
So I didn't have like enough results. So I did.
You made up numbers?
No, I did it by myself like 3 times.
Yeah, you made up numbers. Yeah. Did you answer the same way 3 times?
No.
Ah, you see, it's okay. Yeah. It's making up data, maybe. Or I'm sure there's a word for it. I'll think about it. Yes. Actually, as part of your maths project later in the semester, you'll have to do a little bit of research. Yes. I usually know when people make up the data because the results look too good. Yeah. So I remember a few years ago I said, these results are really good. Where did you get your data from? He's like, well, actually, the thing is, I made it all up. Yeah. Which actually doesn't really bother me too much because the purpose of the research is to write a report. So if you make up the data, that's more of an ethical problem you'll have to live with yourself. Okay, so snowballing. This is when the survey is given to one person in a subgroup and they pass it on to others in the subgroup. Okay, can I do the next one? Yeah. Cluster sampling. Do we know this word from English, cluster?
Yeah, like a group.
It's like a group. So, cluster sampling is when you select people in groups, in batches. Well, not just people, could be anything. So you don't pick one at a time, you pick in batches, in groups. So the population is selected at random in batches or clumps or clusters, whatever word you want to use. I suppose it doesn't have to be at random. So I'll give you an example. An example would be you're doing some research for a product and you're in the supermarket and maybe you see a group of 3 people together, maybe they're a family or something, so you ask the 3 of them to do the survey. Or if you're at a cinema and you want people's opinion of the cinema and you see a group of 5 teenagers together, you would ask 5 of them together to do the survey. Understand? So this isn't actually simple random, because if it was simple random, what you would do is you go to the 5 people and only ask some of them at random. Whereas with cluster, when you have a group of people together, you ask them all to do the survey. So an example would be supermarket, cinema, where naturally people are clumped together in groups. This is cluster.
How about your national population survey? So they might apartment they give.
Yeah. Like you could have you could survey a household, So then everybody in the house does the survey. So yes, this would be cluster sampling as well. You ask per house.
Not a random. It's not a random.
It's not really random, because if it was random, then it means you don't ask everybody in the house. But the thing is, with cluster, when you ask one person, it means you must ask the other people in the house. So then the other people have more of a chance because your friend was picked. So it's not completely random then. So this is cluster sampling. Okay, can you write this one down? We have one left. Got this? Yeah. So multi-stage sampling. So like the name suggests, you do this in stages. So you have a kind of a main part, and then a smaller part, and then a smaller part. So the example would be, you pick a country at random. So you'd say pick a country at random, like Germany. And then in Germany you pick a town at random, Kaiserslautern or whatever. And then in the town you pick maybe a street at random. So with multi-stage, it's a lot like this one up here, the stratified. But the big difference is, first you make one large subgroups, and then when you go into one subgroup, then you make smaller subgroups. And then when you go into one subgroup, maybe you make another smaller subgroup. So it's almost like you zoom in, you go down in levels. So this is the same as tree, but done on levels. That is, large subgroups are made at first, then when one subgroup is selected, it is further subdivided into smaller subgroups. And you begin again. Oops, page, no, right there it is there. Oh, goodness sake. Help page, don't need help. Right, that's multi-stage. So an example would be if you're looking at the entire planet. So for example, you pick a country at random, Ireland. Then in the country you pick a town at random, like Dublin. In the example I'm talking about, where you pick a country and then a town and then a street and then a person, what would be a disadvantage of doing this? What would be a problem? Well, I'll tell you one example, okay? So when you think about all the countries in the world, how many are there? Like 200 or something. What's the chance that you'd pick Ireland? It's 1 in 200. And what's the chance that you pick China? 1 in 200. So maybe you think this isn't fair because you shouldn't really have the same chances picking Ireland as China, because China's a little bit bigger than Ireland. A little bit. So you might say, oh, this method is unfair because it means people in Ireland have a better chance of being picked at random than people in China, even though there's much more people in China. So like if I did this method, I've got a good chance of getting somebody from Ireland, 1 in 200. Yeah? But if I did a simple random sample of the Earth, I just picked somebody on the planet Earth, what's the chance that I'd get someone from Ireland? Well, how many people in Ireland are there? What's it, about including North and South, about 5 million. And what's the population of the Earth? Is it 6 billion? 7 billion? So you've got, if you just pick somebody at random, your chance of picking somebody from Ireland is 1 in 1,000. Because there's not many people from Ireland compared to the total. So 1 in 1,000. But if you do this method, what's your chance of picking someone in Ireland? About 1 in 200. Because Ireland is one of 200 countries. So each of these methods have advantages and disadvantages. But what's an advantage of this method? Well, it's easy to do because you can't really do a simple random method for the entire planet, because do you have a list of everybody's name on the planet? I don't think so. I mean, the closest thing you could get would be Facebook maybe, but not everyone's on Facebook. Yeah. So each of these methods have advantages and disadvantages.
I think also it's like if you may have many different countries. Like
what do you mean, yeah? Advantage or
like,
disadvantage?
like it's an advantage.
Yeah.
When you have people from Ireland, from Germany, different countries.
Yeah, no, that's an advantage. Yeah, that if you want to make sure that you have a mix of different nationalities, then this method will be good for that. Whereas if you didn't use this method, if you did simple random, most of your samples should be what nationality? What's the biggest global nationality?
Asian.
Yeah. Chinese is the biggest one, isn't it? And then, or Indian. It might be tied. Yeah. So, like you said, one advantage of this method is you get a mix of different nationalities. Yeah. Okay, now we have a double lesson now, don't we? So what I want you to do is, I want you to try these questions for a few minutes, and then we'll start the next lesson. So this is a chance to practice your English. Okay. Yes.